Good morning again, everyone. My name is Tenjue Hugo, and I'm an IR specialist employed by the RMI, and I'll be facilitating this morning's seminar. I have switched on my camera just so that you can see I am a real person. However, I'm going to switch it off because for whatever reason, it appears to be very blurry, and it's not necessary for you to see me. If everybody can hear me clearly, then I'm happy. Can I just get a thumbs up from everyone just to get an indication that you can hear me clearly? Thank you very much. I'm seeing all of the thumbs up. Thank you very much. All right. Okay. So once again, good morning and welcome to everybody. Thank you so much for joining. We are a very big group this morning. For that reason, you will note that I have not allowed for any of the mics or the cameras to be on because that will interfere with the interface. I must state from the onset, I will not be sharing the presentation for the seminar. I am also recording, but that recording will not be distributed. There will, however, be a SAF booklet, which the RMI in collaboration with MIBCO have compiled, and that booklet will be made available to all of the delegates as well as all of our RMI members immediately after the seminar. Okay. With regards to questions, I'm presenting by myself this morning, unfortunately, so I'm not going to allow for audio questions. However, if you do have a question during the seminar, I'm going to ask that you please type your question in the chat. And if we do have an opportunity, then I'll do my best to respond to all of the questions in the chat. Alternatively, if for whatever reason I'm not able to respond to all the questions during the seminar, I will allow or avail my email address for questions after the seminar. Okay. Just a thumbs up again to confirm that we are still on the same page. Thank you very much. Let's get right into it then. So the purpose of this morning's seminar is to give members a better understanding of the MIBCO Sick, Accident and Maternity Pay Fund. Delegates will be cautioned about common pitfalls that relate to the SAF, and frequently asked questions will also be addressed during this morning's seminar. So let's get right into it. What is the Sick, Accident and Maternity Pay Fund? SAF is a fund that exists to assist members of the fund who suffer losses of wages or salary through absenteeism, which results from incapacity due to an accident or sickness. SAF also assists female employees who suffer losses of wages or salaries through absenteeism resulting from maternity leave. Additionally, this fund from time to time provides other benefits, including but not limited to death and funeral benefits for members of the fund. Now, what's so special about this fund? As you all would know, anybody that operates outside of the motor industry, or generally people that practice outside of the motor industry, fall under or would comply with the Basic Conditions of Employment Act. In terms of the Basic Conditions of Employment Act, if an employee is absent due to illness, or if an employee is absent due to maternity leave, the employer is obligated in terms of sick leave to pay that employee if the employee provides a medical certificate. However, there's no way for the employer to recover those funds if you have paid the employee for sick leave. With the SAF fund, the employers are able to recover a portion of the funds depending on the number of days, and we'll get to that shortly, but the employer is able to recover some of the funds from MIBCO through the SAF fund. I'm just going to pause there. Jacqueline, yes, the presentation has started. Everybody have confirmed that they can hear. If you cannot hear, then the error will be on your side. Thank you, Mariki, for answering that. Okay. Now, did you know that the SAF fund is only available to RMI members? What this means is that employers who belong to other employer organizations within the motor industry do not enjoy the benefits of SAF. So for an example, the FRA Employers Union do not enjoy the benefits of the SAF. RMI members are, however, allowed to extend the benefits of the fund to non-union members or to non-MIBCO members as well. Now, the RMI have negotiated the SAF with MIBCO, which are the staff association in the motor, or the largest staff association in the motor industry, to ensure that MISA members enjoy even more cover than what the Basic Conditions of Employment Act allows for. Employees who belong to any other trade union within the motor industry do not enjoy the same benefits with SAF as MISA members do. So there is a benefit and a perk to being a MISA member in respect of the SAF. The Sick Accident and Maternity Fund is administered by MIBCO, and MISA administers the Sick and Accident Fund for employee benefits in respect of the benefit fund and death funeral funds. And the agreement that has been negotiated between the RMI and MISA is valid until 31 December 2025, at which point a new agreement will be negotiated. Now, RMI employers contribute the following amounts per week in respect of each RMI employee that is admitted to the fund. The contributions for or by the employers per week for the sick and accident fund for female employees is R14.99 per week, and for males also $14.99. In respect of the maternity benefit, with regards to SAF, maternity is only for female employees, and that contribution is R7.06 per week for female employees. In respect of the death and funeral benefits, the contribution for both male and females is R3.50 per week, which means that is a total amount in respect of female employees of R25.55 per week for female employees and R18.49 per week in respect of male employees. The benefits and contributions are increased or may be increased annually as of the 1st of January per annum by joint resolution of the RMI and MISA. Now, what are the benefits of the fund in respect of MISA members? MISA members are eligible to receive the following sick pay benefits, which are subject to a 13-week period. So you have to contribute for 13 weeks consecutively to become eligible to these benefits. However, for MISA members only, during the waiting period, the member will accumulate 1 day for every 30 days work benefit during that 13-week waiting period. Okay. So again, this is more favorable than what the BCA prescribes. The BCA prescribes 36 consecutive days for an employee that works 6 days a week and 30 consecutive days for an employee that works a 5-day week every 3-year cycle. With the SAF fund, MISA members get 15 days paid sick leave every year, as opposed to this 36 days or 30 days, depending on how many days a week you work per 3-year cycle. Your sick leave days is 15 per annum, and this 15 does not accumulate or accrue or carry over to the next year. So every year you get 15 years, which means that over a period of 3 years, you have 45 days. However, it does not accumulate. If you don't use the 15 days within that specific year, then the next year you'll just start afresh on the 15-day sick leave that you have for that year. Okay. For the first 10 days sick leave in the year, the employee will be paid 100% of the daily basic salary. And then for the last 5 days of the year, the employee will then be paid at 50% of the daily basic salary. So your first 10 days that you apply for sick leave as a MISA member, you'll be paid 100% your ordinary salary for those days. And for the next 5 or the remaining 5, you'll be paid 50% of the daily basic salary. This is recovered or paid from the fund and does not come from the employer's pocket. Okay. The employers, in respect of MISA members, pay the member directly, and then the employer recovers the funds from MIBCO. An employer is not allowed to withhold sick leave payment for an employee because they are waiting for MIBCO to pay them. So as a MISA member, once you have submitted your valid medical certificate to your employer has to pay you those days, and your employer will then go and recover that cost from MIBCO. Okay. A valid medical certificate will be required for 2 or more days sick leave, and for sick leave that is taken on a Monday, a Friday, or a day following or preceding a public holiday. The other day, I had a query where an employer thought that if an employee does not work the day after a public holiday or before a public holiday, they are not entitled to a salary on the day or for the public holiday. That is not correct. That is only in respect of sick leave. So apart from sick leave, if it's a public holiday and the employee does not come to work the day before or the day afterwards, and they're just absent, the employee is still entitled to receive the ordinary pay for the public holiday. But if an employee submits a sick certificate or medical certificate for a day before or after a public holiday, then the sick leave will not be paid. So I need you to understand that the public holiday will still be paid in accordance to what the law prescribes, which is 1 times the ordinary wage for the day if the employee does not work, and 2 times the ordinary wage if the employee does work. However, in terms of sick leave, they will not be eligible for sick pay on the day before or after a public holiday. Okay. I'm going to pause there. Okay. SPLA, maternity is not optional in respect of female employees. It must be contributed for all female employees. The only people who are excluded from having to contribute in respect of maternity are male employees. Then, with regards to benefits of this fund, in respect of non-union employees and NUMSA members. Non-union and NUMSA members who voluntarily belong to the fund, and this is voluntarily because belonging to the fund is only compulsory for RMI and MISA. Okay, so anybody else who joins voluntarily. So those who voluntarily belong to the fund are also only eligible to receive the benefits subject to the 13-week waiting period. With the non-union and NUMSA members, however, during the waiting period, no benefits are available or due. In respect of the non-union and NUMSA employees, a total of 15 days paid sick leave per year is granted, and it is paid at a rate of 75% on the daily basic salary. So the total 15 days sick leave per year for the non-union and NUMSA members is paid at 75%. Okay. Now, where it differs is for non-union employees and NUMSA members, the members must claim directly from MIBCO because the employer is not obligated to pay them. If you are off sick and you are a non-union employee or a NUMSA member, you have to directly apply for your sick leave pay from MIBCO, right? The only instance where your employer would assist with that application to or the claim to MIBCO would be by their discretion. So they are not forced to, they are not obligated to, but at their own discretion, they may assist you with it. Okay. Again, a valid medical certificate is required for 2 or more days sick leave and for sick leave taken on a Monday, Friday, or day following or preceding a public holiday. Important to note regarding the claims, your claim for your sick leave pay will not be processed or paid if the sick leave claim is submitted after 6 months from the date of return to work, if the first day of sick leave is on a Monday or Friday or a day before or following a public holiday, And if you only seek medical attention on the second day of illness, it will also not be paid. Additionally, if an employee stays off from work for longer than the period that they have been booked off for by the medical practitioner. So if the employee is supposed to return on the 4th, but they only return on the 6th, that employee's claim will not be paid as a result. Okay. Regarding the maternity leave benefits, all female members who have passed the 13 weeks waiting period are eligible for the maternity benefit, and this benefit is paid at 30% of your daily remuneration for a period not exceeding 17 weeks, which is 4 months. Okay. When we speak of remuneration versus salary, salary or wages, that's your normal ordinary pay for the hours that you have worked. However, remuneration encompasses benefits such as pension fund, medical aid, commission, if you do get them. Okay. With regards to the accident leave benefits, all fund members who have passed the 13 weeks waiting period are eligible for 40 days accident leave per annum for any accident-related leave, and this is also paid at 75% of the member's salary, not remuneration. Note the difference. And the accident leave does not apply in the instance of an IOD, which is work-related accidents or injuries. So if it is a IOD, then you would submit your claim to the compensation fund. But if it is any other accident related, then the leave would be the accident leave through SAF. Okay. I am seeing all of the questions coming through and we will respond to them at the end. Okay. Next, we then have the death and the funeral benefit. Once an RMI employer has made contributions for 8 consecutive weeks, which is 2 months, in respect of the death and funeral benefit, the employee or the member then becomes eligible for the death and funeral benefits provided for in terms of the agreement and the rules. In the event of the death of the member or a dependent of the member, then the qualifying member will be eligible to receive the following death benefits. The death benefit of 10,000 Rand in case of the member's own death, and then funeral benefits in respect of 10,000 Rand for the member's spouse, the member's child who is older than 18 years and is studying full-time, the member's child who is between the ages of 14 and 18 years. The benefit of 7,000 Rand will apply in the case of the death of a child who is somebody that's younger than 14 years of age, or in the event that the member has a stillbirth. Okay. The funeral benefits in respect of the 10,000 Rand are limited to payment of 3 claims per annum, which includes the member. So in a year, you can only submit 3 claims, excuse me, for the 10,000 Rand funeral benefit, and that includes yourself, okay, per annum. In respect of the 7,000 Rand benefit, so in respect of the funeral benefit for a child under the age of 14 years old, or in respect of a stillbirth, the funeral benefit can be applied for 2 claims per annum. Okay. Important to note, the aforesaid funeral and death benefits will be in addition to any other death funeral benefits that the member or dependent member may receive from other sources. So if you have a benefit in your personal capacity with Ashupol or Afbop or whoever, this funeral and death benefit from SAF will be in addition to whatever you have in your personal capacity. So having this funeral and death benefit will not affect your other policies that you have outside of the SAF. Why this is important to note is because with a life policy, for example, you are not allowed to self-enrich. So if you have several life policies at different companies, then there is the possibility that only one of the multiple will pay out and that they will not all pay out. However, with the funeral and death benefit, you will receive this SAF benefit in addition to your policies that you have in your personal capacity. Okay. The death and the funeral benefit claims must be submitted to MIBCO within 26 weeks from the death of the member or the member's dependent on the prescribed form. The form can be accessed either on MIBCO's website or through contacting MIBCO directly. In respect of voluntary non-union employees and NUMSA members, you will qualify for the death and funeral benefits once you have completed the application form to nominate your beneficiaries for payment of the death benefit. The application forms can be emailed to info@mibca.org.za. That same email address can also be used to request the application forms or to query your status in terms of the death and funeral benefit. Okay. So I'll just repeat the email address for those that want to screenshot it or record it. It is info@mibca.org.za. Now, the claims process works as follows. All sick, accident, and maternity claims must be submitted to MIBCO by completing the prescribed claim form. And depending on what it is you're claiming for, your sick leave or the application form needs to be supported by additional documentary evidence. For example, if you're submitting, excuse me, if you're submitting a claim for sick leave, then you will support it by submitting your valid medical certificate. If you are submitting an application for maternity leave, then you would submit also your medical report from your doctor confirming your pregnancy and the dates on which you intend to take the maternity leave. If you are submitting a claim application in respect of the death and funeral benefit, then you would submit a death certificate to support your application. Okay. The claims for MIBCO members will be paid directly to the employer, and the employer will then pay the employee. The claims in respect of voluntary or non-union employees and NUMSA members will be submitted to by the employee to MIBCO and are not compelled to be paid to the employer. So as a non-union employee or a NUMSA member, if you submit it directly to MIBCO, there's no obligation on MIBCO to pay it directly to your employer. The funds can also be paid directly to you. Okay. Employers, again, like I've already said, with regards to voluntary non-union members and NUMSA members, the employer may, at their discretion, assist the non-union employees and NUMSA members with their claims to MIBCO. Yeah. So when will your claim be rejected? The Sick, Accident and Maternity Fund rules has a comprehensive list of instances wherein your claim or the sick or accident application will not be paid by the fund. It's a long list and I'm just going to read it as is. So your claim will be rejected in respect of a venereal disease, misconduct or excessive indulgence in intoxicating liquor or drugs, temporary or permanent insanity, treatments or operations for purely cosmetic purposes, obesity including Pickwicken syndrome, infertility and artificial insemination, any accident which in the opinion of MIBCO should not be a charge upon the fund, any accident which occurred 12 calendar months or more before the absence to which the claim relates, injuries that are sustained by a member that cause of arise from willful self-injury, professional sport, speed contests or speed trials, any accident which is covered by the Compensation for Occupational Injuries and Diseases Act, accidents that relate to skydiving, gliding, parachuting, skin diving, water skiing, so any of your extreme sports, accidents that relate to flying, mountaineering with the use of guides or ropes, or participating in winter sports polo, riding a motorcycle, motor scooter, or mechanically assisted pedal cycle as a panager or otherwise, unless it is for work-related reasons, then that would fall under the Compensation for Occupational Injuries and Diseases Act. Accidents or injuries that relate to war, invasion, acts of foreign enemies, hostilities, whether war be declared or not, civil wars, rebellion, and revolution or rioting. Okay. Excuse me. For any queries after the seminar that I will not be able to deal with, anybody or all of you are my members, please contact your IR specialist for your specific region. If you have employer-specific questions, the number that you can use is on the screen. That is 011-789-254, and I see there is a digit missing. My apologies for that. I'll rectify it. However, the email addresses for your IR specialists in your region are there. If you do not have this information, or if you are not sure who your IR specialist for your region is, then the information is available on our website. In respect of MISA members, or if an employer wants to inquire on behalf of a MISA member, you will then call 011-476-3920. You can also email training@ms.org.za. You can also email info@ms.org.za. As I said, the RMI, in collaboration with MISA, have put together an incredibly informative booklet, which you can all access by scanning the below QR code. This booklet is also available in PDF format and will be made available to all the delegates in attendance. The link will be shared with all RMI members in this week's RMI web letter. Okay, so if you can take a screenshot of the QR code. However, it will still be sent through via email correspondence. Okay. Thank you, Mariki. Just to confirm, the number for the RMI offices is 011-789-2542. Thank you very much for that, Mariki. Okay. I feel like I've gone through it much quicker than I had anticipated. Just for all of your benefit, Daniela from our offices has shared the link for the booklet in the chat, and I'm now going to attend to some of the questions. The first question that I'm seeing here is Tracy, and it reads, will SAF pay the employer if the employer is off sick on a Tuesday and does not submit a sick note? The answer to that is yes, Tracy, because a medical certificate is only required if the employee has been absent for 2 consecutive days, or if they're absent on a Monday or Friday, day before or after a public holiday. So if that Tuesday falls on a day before or after the public holiday, it would not be paid. However, if it's just a normal Tuesday, then it would be paid and they would not be necessarily required to submit a medical certificate. Okay. The next question I have here is Sonia Palane. The SAF does not make provision for paternity leave. So if a male employee applies for paternity leave, I believe that they would have to apply through UIF for that paternity benefit. It would not be paid by the employer, and I do not believe that MIBCO would pay it. I speak under correction, but that is mine. It's not included in the sick, accident, and maternity fund as it exists. the SAF only makes provision for maternity and not paternity in its current state. The next question is, can an employer claim on a clinic note? The answer to that is no. A valid medical certificate is the only valid proof that can be submitted in respect of sick leave. A clinic note is not a valid medical certificate. Just briefly, a valid medical certificate is one that is issued by a medical practitioner that is registered. If it is a registered traditional health practitioner, that would also constitute a valid medical certificate. However, a clinic note does not fall in the category of valid medical certificates. So no, you would not be able to claim using a clinic note or an attendance note from a hospital. It must be a medical certificate. Then the next question is, if non-MISA members have a valid medical certificate, will they be able to claim if they are absent on a Monday or Friday, etc.? So the rule regarding non-payment on a Monday, a Friday, day before on a public holiday is in respect of all employees. That's not just for MISA members. So non-MISA members will also not be able to claim if they're absent on a Monday, a Friday, a day on or before a public holiday. Okay. Then what is the email address for queries or submissions for the sick maternity claims? That information, if you are a MISA member, will be provided to you through MISA on the email addresses that I have provided. They'll also provide you with the form. If you are not a MISA member, please contact your IR specialist in your region and they will provide you with the information. Please share all the forms. I do not have all of the forms available to me. The forms are changed ever so often. So the best thing for you to do, if you are a MISA member, request the form directly from MISA. If you are applying for as an RMI member, then contact your IR specialist and they will be able to make sure that you receive the most recent and updated application form. And then Megan, if the employer is RMI, but the employee is non-union member, how does it work? I believe that I did deal with that. If you can just clarify your question, what do you mean? How does it work? How does what work? All of the benefits that I've explained. If you can just clarify, and then I'll get back to that again. The next question, members only working a 5-day work week are entitled to 30 days over 3 years. Does the 15 days per year still apply? So the 30 days over 3 years does not apply. In this instance, what applies is the provisions of the MIBCO main agreement and the sick and accident, the sick accident and maternity fund. And the provisions of the SAF are that employees are entitled to 15 days per year, every year. So the entitlement of sick leave days in respect of the SAF fund is not over a period of 3 years, it's per annum. So every year you have 15 days. The 30 days in respect of a 5-day work week and 36 days in respect of a 6-day work over 3 years does not apply. It is 15 days every year. If you are a MISA member, the 15 days are paid. 10 days are at 100% and 5 days are at 50%. If you are a non-MISA member or NUMSA member, then all 15 days are paid at 75% your ordinary wage for the day. Then Charles is asking, why is RMI membership necessary to access this fund? What if the business contributes to MIBCO and the staff are MISA members? The answer for that is simple, Charles. There are several parties to the MIBCO, namely the RMI, NUMSA, MISA, and the FRA. They're the main parties. Parties are entitled to get into agreements amongst each other. When it comes to SAF, SAF is something that was negotiated by RMI, and through negotiations, RMI were able to reach consensus with MISA for the MISA benefits, for the MISA employees to benefit from this fund. So the reason is simple. It's because there's a written agreement in place. And if there are other parties who in future want to have access to the fund, they would have to then engage in negotiations with the RMI at the time that that arises. I hope that answers you. Just again, for those that didn't hear me the first time, the link for the booklet has been shared on the chat by Daniela van der Merwe, so you can just access it there. You can also access it by going to the QR or scanning the QR code that I've now shared on the screen again. I'm just going through the other questions. The question here is from Zaldine, and it reads, the Workmen's Compensation Act does not pay an employee salary for 3 days and less booked off duty. Previous years, and actually up to earlier this year, we could claim from SAF accident leave for IOD, which is less than 3 days. For the past couple of months, I've been struggling to get these claims paid. Why was it allowed before but not anymore? Zaldine, I cannot answer in respect of why it was allowed before. However, the current rule is that IODs will not be paid by the accident leave, and they are excluded from the accident leave if it is an injury on duty. In my opinion, if it is 3 days and it's an accident, surely the employee would have a medical certificate which have booked them off sick, and they should be able to access their sick leave. But if it's a IOD, then it would not be paid from the accident leave. Deirdre asks, what is the process regarding employees going to the clinic and then getting booked off sick and bringing in the clinic card info? To my knowledge, if you go to a clinic, it is possible to see a doctor. The doctor at the clinic will give you a medical certificate. However, if you go to a clinic and all you have is a clinic attendance letter or a clinic note which states that you attended or you visited the clinic on the 9th of July, for example, that is not a valid medical certificate. It will not be paid as sick leave. If you bring your clinic card, the only purpose it serves is to record when your next date is for your appointments. That is also not a valid medical certificate and is also not sufficient supporting document in respect of a sick leave claim. Zaldine says, you say SAF will pay if you're off on a Tuesday and no sick note, but you also stated that SAF will not pay for the first day off work if the employee only went to the doctor on the second day. Yes, that does make sense, and that is correct. So if you are off on Tuesday, only on Tuesday, and you go to the doctor on Tuesday, you will be paid. If you go to the doctor, or if you don't go to the doctor on Tuesday, and you're only off for that one day, right? That Tuesday will be paid. And the reason for that is because you're not off sick for 2 or more days. However, if you are off sick on Tuesday and you are off sick on Wednesday, but you didn't go to the doctor on the first day that you were absent, and you only go on the second day, then it will not be paid. I know it can get confusing. Saldine, you can tell me if that's clear. Okay, I see a thumbs up. Thank you. Okay. Then Sue asks, when exactly does the 15 days start? It is different for every employee. Remember, your leave accumulates from when you start employment. So if I start employment on the 1st of January, then I will start accruing days from the 1st of January. However, remember, in respect of SAF, you only become eligible to the benefits after the 13 weeks waiting period in respect of the death and the maternity benefits. And when speaking of sick leave, you don't immediately have 15 days when you start working. Sick leave is accumulated at 1 day for every 26 days work during the first 6 months of your employment, right? So that still applies. So the cycle after let's say after the 6 months, will then accrue from your date of employment. So it does differ for every person. I'm not sure what you mean by how do we know when a member has been working for many years? If you can just type that and clarify it for me, and I'll do my best to respond. Again, Alta, if you belong or if you contribute, if you belong to the staff and you contribute to the fund, then the 30 days over 3 years and 36 days over 3 years, depending on how many days a week you work, falls away. And the 15 days per annum is applicable. I'm just going through the questions. Shade or Shade, forgive me for if I'm pronouncing your name wrong. The 15-day sick leave benefits through SAF are not over and above that of the BCA. BCA does not apply, so BCA falls away in this instance. Ashika says, from our past experience, sorry, some of the questions are moving as I'm going through. From our past experience with MIBCO, SAF has always asked for a sick note from day one of an employee being absent. Why is this the case, since you are saying that medical certificate is required from day 2? Ashika, that could be by error of the agent dealing with your claim. I'm not sure why, but my advice would be in the instance that it is 1 day, let's say the employee is absent on a Tuesday. However, they did not go to the doctor because it's only 1 day and they've not been absent for 2 or more days, then I would refer the agent to that specific clause if they do deny or reject the claim based on the fact that the employee has not provided a valid medical certificate for the 1 day. Regarding paternity leave, Adrian, thank you for answering that question. Adrian says here, MISA pays 1,000 Rand after the birth of a child as a paternity benefit, but you have to claim from UIF for the 10 consecutive days unpaid leave. Adrian called them yesterday for this information. Okay, so that's just to confirm in respect of paternity leave. If you belong to MISA, then MISA will pay you R1,000 benefit. That is exclusive to MISA members as paternity benefit. The 10 days is claimable from UIF. That means that if you are not a MISA member or you are a non-union member or a NUMSA member, in respect of paternity leave, you would then have to apply to the UIF and nothing will be paid from SAF. Thank you for that, Adrian. Just for everyone's benefit, Mariki has shared for us a link to MISA's second accident benefits website page where you can get more information, especially for MISA members. And if you're not a MISA member, then maybe it may benefit you to also go to the website because their benefits are a lot more favorable than what you would receive if you're a non-MISA member. Vilma Pillow, does that sick leave get prorated if you start in the middle of the year? The answer to that is yes. You don't, when you start working, you don't immediately start with the benefit of 15 days. So it will be prorated and accumulated. Sue then asks, if someone is sick for 20 days, are the last 5 days unpaid? The answer to that is yes. Only 15 days will be paid from SAF. If you exceed your 15 days per annum, then your rest of your sick leaves will be unpaid. You do have the option to apply for annual leave in place of sick leave, but that is at the employee's discretion. It's not always advised. But to answer the question, yes, the last 5 days would be unpaid. Similarly to the BCAA, if you are entitled to 30 or 36 days, depending on how many days a week you work, once those days have depleted, your sick leave is unpaid until the next 3-year cycle. Samantha, the employer pays the contributions in respect of SAF to MIBCO. Jacqueline, to my knowledge, there isn't a benefit that pays employees sick leave after they've exhausted the leave days that are given to them. I speak under correction, but there isn't to my knowledge, there isn't a benefit that pays you. After you've exhausted your 15 days, the rest of your sick leave is unpaid. Espelay, hospital and clinic notes are very vague. Are they valid or acceptable? I missed your response earlier on. If it's a medical certificate issued by a medical practitioner at a hospital or a clinic, yes, it is acceptable. If it is a clinic or hospital attendance letter that just confirms that this person attended or visited the hospital or the clinic on the specific day, it is not a valid medical certificate. It is not acceptable. There are employers who, at their own discretion, will pay an employee. However, it is not a valid medical certificate. Rian, with funeral benefits, the proof that you need to claim for a spouse would be the death certificate. Excuse me. Then Rian also asks, our compensation is with RMA. Can you correct that for me? Did you mean to say RMI? I'm not sure. Do I understand correctly that we should be able to claim IOD leave from them? No, IOD leave is claimed from the Workmen's Compensation Act through the Department of Labor. The only accident that you can claim for is if it's not work related, then you can claim it through SAF, where you qualify for 40 days accident leave for accidents that are not work related or injuries that are not work related. I'm sorry, the questions are just jumping around as I'm going through. Uh, A question from Renee is, if we pay a MISA member before claiming and the claim is rejected, does the employer still have to pay the employee or will it then be deducted from them? So remember the rule says that you may not withhold funds whilst waiting for payment from MIBCO. You do have to do your due diligence. So if you're going to pay the employee, you are still required to confirm that they have a valid medical certificate and that they meet the requirements in terms of what the SAF rules stipulate. If you don't do your due diligence, so for example, if the employee is absent on a Monday or Friday citing illness and they don't provide a medical certificate and they come back and they say to you, I was sick, and you pay them, the rule says that it will not be paid if you're sick the Monday, or if your sick leave starts the Monday or the Friday or day before on a public holiday, right? So at that point, you need to make sure that the leave is in, or the application, the claim that you're making is in line with what the rules specify. Once the payment has been made to the member for MISA, if MIBCO rejects it, you cannot then go back and deduct it from the employee, unfortunately. You'll then have to take it up with MIBCO. Kerry says, some employees say they have to set days to attend the clinic for medication. If this falls on a Monday or Friday, can a claim be processed? I'm not sure if doctors see patients each time they collect meds. That again would not be claimable because when you go to collect your medication or when you attend to the clinic, you don't receive a medical certificate. All you have as proof is your clinic card or your clinic bookie with all of the dates. At most, you might get a clinic attendance note to confirm that you visited the clinic or that you were at the clinic on the specific day. That does not book you off. So that is not a valid medical certificate and you would not be able to claim it. Even if it does fall, let's say it's not a Monday or Friday and it's a Tuesday or a Wednesday, that is not on or before a public holiday. The fact that it's not a valid medical certificate and it's only a clinic note, you will not be able to claim it. Sorry, then there's a question that says, with regards to maternity, what if you are over 55 and cannot fall pregnant anymore? Must you as a female still pay? The SAF Accident and Maternity Fund rules don't make provision or don't exclude females based on age or anything. All it provides for is that a female member must contribute. So it doesn't make provision for excluding people that are over 55 or that won't have children. It doesn't make provision for it, if that answers you. It literally just says female member who qualified for benefits will be paid according to the fund. And in terms of contributions, it just states all female members. So there are no exclusions in terms of age or any other such demographic. Okay. And then the last question that I'm going to take is Rian van Veek. Sorry. My understanding is that according to the labor law, an employee has 30 days sick leave after 2 years. So if they are sick for 20 days and 15 are paid by MIBCO, the employee is responsible to pay the other 5. I'm not sure I understand you correctly, Rian. So the Basic Conditions of Employment Act says that you have 30 days sick leave every 3-year cycle if you work 5 days a week, and you have 36 days sick leave every 3-year cycle if you work 6 days a week. Okay. Because we operate in the retail motor industry, we don't apply the rules of the Basic Conditions of Employment Act. Okay. Sorry, I'm looking at your question. Something else just came in. My apologies. Okay. So we don't apply the BCA. If you belong to the SAF, then the BCA provisions in terms of sick leave fall away. And what applies is that you have 15 days sick leave per annum. Okay. So if you are off 20 days in the year, the 15 days will be paid 100% for the first 10 and 50% for the other 5 if you're a MISA, and 75% for all 15 days if you're a non-MISA or NUMSA member, and the other 5 days will be unpaid. Okay. All right. It is 11 o'clock. I know there are a lot of questions that I have not responded to in the chat. I'm not going to have a chance to go and respond in the chat, but what I can do for those of you who have not answered, or if I've not answered you satisfactorily, I'm going to type my email address in the chat, tenjue.hugo@rmi.org.za, and you can please email me your queries only relating to SAF after this seminar, and I will respond to them as soon as I can. I'll do my best to respond to all of the queries regarding this specific seminar by close of business tomorrow. After that, if you have any queries, if you are an RMI member, please contact your IR specialist for your specific region. The information is on the screen. The information is also available on our RMI website. If you are a MISA member and want to make a query as an employee or on behalf of a MISA member employee, then you can again go to their website. Their website is very comprehensive. You can also call them on the number that is displayed on the screen, as well as the email addresses that are on the screen. Once again, the link to the booklet, which also contains the contact details for RMI and MISA, are in the chat. They've been put on the chat by Daniela. And the link for the booklet will also be made available to RMI members in our weekly newsletter this week. Thank you all very much for your attendance. I hope it has been fruitful. I hope it was informative. For those that have not answered again, like I've said, please feel free to email me and I'll do my best to respond to all of your queries in detail, as comprehensively as I can by tomorrow. And anything else, please contact your specific consultants. Thank you all very much and have a good rest of your day.